Hey everybody, it's Brian with the VIP Soundcheck, and I'm bringing you a very special interview. I'm honored to have Zhaklina with me. And Zhaklina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I should say, so you are a Christian artist, and it's kind of hard to narrow down your type of music. So, I mean, each of your songs are different. But I wanted to kind of take a step back and talk about how we met. It was actually here in Nashville, and it was a mental health songwriters night.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. And you actually organized this, correct?
Yeah, I'm the founder of Mental Health Songwriter Nights in Nashville.
Perfect. Now, how did that come about?
So, I founded them in 2022. As you mentioned a little bit before, I am an artist. I am an alternative rock pop artist, and I've been advocating for mental health through my music since 2017. And when I moved to Nashville in 2018, I started like getting into all of the songwriters rounds and like kind of getting into more of that community out here in Nashville. And I really fell in love with like that whole style of having songwriters go up on stage and each one take turns showcasing their music and talking about what it's about. But I always felt like I was kind of one of like the odd ones out because I would be talking about like really deep topics like mental health related themes. And in 2020, I had started wanting to like pursue developing this big event, like one singular event where it could be like a mental health event, and we get a bunch of artists together to perform music revolving around mental health, pick an organization that we benefit through the show, et cetera, et cetera. And no doors were really opening for a while. And this is kind of where like my faith steps in, and I'm just like trusting God with like leading me to the right places and his timing and for his glory, and just realizing that like this is a vision that I feel like he gave me, and trying to work in relationship with him as I'm navigating this. And in 2022, so this is 2 years after I had started pursuing this vision. I was downtown at the library in their little cafe, and I saw that they had this like little stage in the corner. And I asked them, like, "Do you guys do shows here?" And they were like, "Yeah, we do. Do you want to play?" And I was like, yes, but also I've been wanting to put on this event. It's a mental health event for like songwriters who are passionate about mental health to come out and sing about that and benefit the cause. And they're like, "Oh well, our owner is actually really passionate about mental health, and I bet he would be totally down to have you here." So that ended up working out, and I was doing them monthly there for a little while, and then I started like they started growing, and we took them to other venues, and then I started making ticketed events, and they've just been like organically growing over the years, to the point now where we're actually having our very first festival in September, which I'm really excited about.
Nice.
And I recently, it was like last November, we launched our first sub theme of the Mental Health Songwriter Nights called Christian Night. So I'm trying to do um, I like doing different themes of mental health songwriters nights, and just to kind of honor my faith walk, and then also highlight the mental health struggles that Christians go through in a pretty specific way when it comes to like our battle with our spirituality and living in this world. I wanted to start also putting on Christian themed ones where we can talk more about that, and people who feel like they don't have those spaces in church or in their community to really have that conversation, they can come out to those events and start talking about those topics, and realize that there's other people that also want to talk about those topics and are wrestling with really similar things. But overall, the larger umbrella is mental health, and it's a very inclusive event. And I really like that the people that come out are all about just connecting on that topic and wanting to figure out how to support each other. And one of the things that I think that makes our events really special is not only these fantastic artists that come out and pour their hearts out on stage and talk about their journeys and get really vulnerable, and share their music, but also the resources that we're able to raise awareness for and connect people with directly through our organization and our shows. I feel like that's really special because half the battle is realizing, like, okay, is there help? Where is that help? How do I get connected? And we make all of that happen at our events. And I just feel like that's just half the battle, you know? And
Sure.
once you get connected with the people who want to help, then it's just about choosing to move forward with that. So that's been really cool and really special through our events, as well. But yeah, it's been this deep seated passion. I am very passionate about mental health. I started it off as pursuing it as an advocate through my music, and I still do that. But then wanted to do these bigger events, and it went from this one big event to now it's a whole series, and we're doing a handful a year, and now we're doing themed ones. So pretty cool.
But no, that's beautiful. What I love about it, and you had mentioned one of the nice thing is we have seen kind of more of an acceptance and a resurgence of talking about mental health in the broader sense. But I love that you have particularly some of the nights that are Christian themed because I think as Christians, sometimes it's difficult for us to admit that we're struggling because we're afraid people are going to think we don't have faith and we're
Yep.
not trusting the Lord. And
Yep.
so there's almost like that extra wall that we put on ourselves, not that the Lord does, but I think we put on ourselves that we're afraid to admit that. So is
Mm.
that kind of what you saw and why you kind of wanted to go that route?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. There's a lot of stigmas in like the Christian world, surrounding mental health. Like there are people that still will say, "Oh, you don't need to go see a therapist. Just talk to Jesus." And it's
Hmm.
like, well, I talk to Jesus all the time, and he's telling me that he's put people on this planet with these really awesome gifts that can see
Exactly.
things that I can't see. And when we remember that, like, we are all a part of the body and we all have these different gifts, just like when we go to a doctor, if we're having some kind of physical ailment and we
Yep.
need that kind of support and we trust their expertise and their knowledge and all the years they spent in school learning about these things, our mental health is just as important. And I just feel like that is a really powerful um, highlight that we kind of share at our events is like, this is real. You're not imagining it. It's not
Yeah.
just in your head. And it's okay if you need that support. In fact, like, Jesus wants you to heal. He wants you to
Hmm.
connect with the people that are going to help you heal, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're not a bad Christian. You're not praying hard enough or anything like that. So yeah, that's a huge part of it. And then the other part is just how much Jesus has helped me heal through those resources. So knowing, like, I have like my own little team that I've put together of specialists that have helped me with different things. And then I've expanded on that through like all of my wellness routines. And like, I really appreciate all of my wellness resources, as well as my therapy resources, my mental health resources. And all of that combined is stuff that I feel like has helped me grow and heal in so many ways. And Jesus has guided me too. And so I just want to share that with people. I want other people who are going through similar journeys to share that as well, to just shine that light so that other people know that it is possible and it's more than okay. Like, we want you to thrive.
Sure. Now you'd mentioned that your passion for mental health and kind of helping people through that and the gift that God has given you, starting with your music and now expanding not only the music but into these nights and the festival that you got coming up.
Mhm.
Have you always had that passion, or was there something that kind of triggered that in you that you knew that this is what God wanted me to do?
Yeah. I've always been passionate about music. Ever since I was little, I've always loved singing and performing. I would put on these like shows for my cousins and my neighborhood friends all the time. And I came up with these really cool little talent shows too, where I'm like, everybody who's talented in something different, like we show off different skills. Some people were dancing. The boys were usually like, can we do like a wrestling match? I'm like, what?
Sure.
um, and so it started off as like a pure like love for music. And then growing up, I wouldn't say that like I was passionate about mental health my whole life, but growing up, I witnessed a lot of dysfunction and toxicity, and I had to navigate a lot of trauma and a lot of challenges. And when I got older and started going to college and started seeing a counselor, because I started landing myself in situations that I'm like, this really hurts and something feels off and something feels wrong. And I feel like there's a better way to be doing life. And I started going to a counselor and just kind of opening up a little more about my journey and learning like, oh, like I shouldn't have gone through those things when I was younger, and I shouldn't have had to have dealt with those things. And how like, it's kind of like the mentality of breaking chains. So
Hmm.
there's different chains that we're trying to break with every generation. And in mine, I think it's just like recognizing codependency, recognizing abuse for what it is, the physical, the emotional, the mental, all of it. And try and doing your best to really break through that addiction, like just and seeing how like much addiction can really like tear down a family,
Sure.
as well as like the person that is struggling with that. And so there's just like, that layer. And then you go even deeper into like, oh, like this person has this disorder, which explains a lot of these other actions. And so I took a couple of like psychology courses when I was in high school because I was really interested in the topic. But then in college, as I was like starting to learn more about this in real time, I started taking even more of those courses as my like electives, like the fun classes you take because I wanted to learn more about it
Sure.
in a way that I can actually apply. And I just grew really passionate. And even when I graduated, I continued to pursue counseling, and that has just led me to heal myself. Because I think, like, when I first started going, it was like, I see how damaging, this person's behavior is in my life and this person's behavior in my life. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, what am I doing that's like, you know, um, allowing this behavior in my life to influence my behavior and make me, not necessarily make me, but influence me to make decisions that I shouldn't be making, and I knew deep down I shouldn't be making. Like, why am I struggling to stand in my integrity?
Hmm.
Like, really looking at myself in the mirror and like wanting to have better self control. And just like in that time frame, I was also coming to know Jesus, because prior to that, I come from a Catholic and Muslim background. My dad's
Okay.
side of the family is Catholic, my mom's side is Muslim. So, like, I always knew about the topic of God, but I wasn't really like taught about a relationship with Jesus, and like prayer and scripture wasn't like a huge part of my life. And there was a lot of tension between both sides of my family, and my parents had split when I was really young. So there was even more tension because of that, and the faith differences and cultural differences. So when I'm in my 20s and I'm trying to figure out how to do life and what I believe and all this stuff, like that's where like I feel like Jesus pursued, he'd been pursuing me my whole life. I could look back and see that. But in that time, it was like, all right, I'm entering in like this super, super messy, confusing, chaotic time in your life. And I'm going to sit with you through it. And it was like his presence through friendships, like people that showed me his love, people that showed me his light, counselors, teachers, like all these other like people that he put in my life who believed in him and had a genuine relationship with him, who showed me like this is what like life could be like if you choose it. And then I started being asked to go to church and learn more about church in a way that I didn't really understand it prior to that. And so I became a Christian in my early 20s and accepted Jesus as my savior at that time. And it was when I did that that I feel like it was like everything just kind of fell into place. And I felt like my journey through life, my experiences with my family, all of the pain like started to like make sense in a way of like, oh, this can be redeemed.
Hmm.
We can do something with this. I don't think it made sense. Like sometimes people say everything happens for a reason, and I prefer to reframe it to like everything can be redeemed. I don't think
Okay.
that, like bad things necessarily have to happen, but anything that you've gone through can be redeemed when you take it to Jesus. And so that's how I started looking at a lot of the things that I went through. Um, and then, my passion with music and wanting to do something with that, all of it just felt like I was being called to heal people, help heal people and shine a light on like ways that they can heal. And also just like share my story for anyone else that might be going through something similar. And so that they know that they're not alone and that there's hope, and that they too have purpose and they're worthy.
Sure. That's beautiful when you talked about I never thought of it that way, but everything can be redeemed. And as you said that, I was thinking of that verse that all things work for good for those who love the Lord, even things that
Yes.
are bad. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it still is part of his plan to make us, kind of mold us into who he wants us to be. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And and
I love
yeah, I wanted to ask you, and if it's too personal, I apologize. But since you become a Christian, has there been heightened tension with your mom's side being that they're Islamic, or how has that, kind of grown or
Yeah, in the earlier days, especially when I was still wrestling with like boundaries and self-control and not being codependent and all of that, um, if I started wearing like a cross more often and being loud about my faith on like social media and in my circles and just talking about God more. I still am, but like, in the beginning, I was just like, whoa, where have I been my whole life? Like, in a little hole somewhere, like that, like I was so on fire for like my relationship with Jesus, and it was so like fresh and new. And I was just excited. And that side of the family would be like, if you don't wear a cross around us, like keep it like, if you're gonna wear one, either take it off before you step into our home or like hide it underneath your clothes or whatever to respect your family. And I'm just like, I don't that like never made any sense to me. And I still like had a lot of deep respect for them, and I would never like go into their home and try and like, change them and make them believe what I believe or anything like that. But it was just like a lot of I think that I think they saw it as like I was either abandoning or rejecting them in some way, and I wasn't. But I think just after a while, I just continued to wear my cross and talk about my faith, and I just stayed the course. And I feel like a lot of that is due to God strengthening me, in my true identity in Him, but also um, my work on my mental health as well with my different therapists, all of the different wellness resources that I have been surrounding myself with and dove into, good community as well. That had always been really good for me. But I stayed grounded in that time and stayed the course. And I think eventually they just kind of were like, all right, we can't change her, you know? And so that's where I feel like there was nothing that I did that made them accept me more. I think it was more so I just got stronger in accepting myself,
sure.
and there's nothing they can do or say to change that. And I think too, that's kind of like a cornerstone for me is like always remembering like, how strong my faith in Jesus is and his love for me is, and like his sacrifice for us, because that reminds me how strong I am, because that was a really difficult thing for me to do.
Mhm.
And so whenever I go through something that's like a new level of challenges of just like, oh man, I'm feeling like I want to like I'm gonna be codependent again or something. I always go back to that moment and like that helps me remember how strong I truly am in him.
That's fantastic. And it's I'm just again, I just anybody who's watching, just remember that we all in some degree are dealing with people that we love, that there might be conflict. And just remember that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. And Christ loves them and died for them just like us. And so the best thing is to love them and to pray for them and to just do exactly what you said. Be yourself and be bold.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, as you're talking, I wanted to ask is, do you think that one of the things that therapy has helped more than anything is with that confidence and that boldness that you now have?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I definitely do. And I have one therapist in particular that I started seeing in 2020, and she was just like also just such a wonderful, beautiful example of just like a healthy woman who has a relationship with Jesus and cares about her physical health and her mental health. But she really helped me grow in understanding boundaries and navigating them. And she like gave me all these different. I'm a big reader, so she gave me all these books to read and podcasts to listen to, and a lot of those books have exercises. So like this is like a lot of work that you're doing outside of therapy. And then we would do different kinds of therapy when we had our sessions as well, mostly talk therapy, but sometimes some EMDR to work through some of the trauma, which also helped me like kind of reframe my trauma and get out of that like I'm always a victim mindset. Because I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, and it's one of the things that you can struggle with CPTSD is like it's always going to be this way, and it's not.
Hmm.
And just realizing the choice that you have in that, and also realizing like you're not in that place anymore. You're in a better place now, and you now have all these tools and resources to like navigate whatever comes your way, so you're strong. But I think like my therapists having a relationship with Jesus also helped me connect all of like the things I was learning in therapy with my spirituality, which also allowed me to like continue to grow in that awareness of like, okay, like faith and mental health, they work together. This isn't
Hmm.
something that's like one or the other, which I feel like a lot of times in society, they are kind of like put against each other.
Yeah.
Um, just like I think like sometimes people put science and faith against each other as well, and it's just like that's not.
They actually work really well together.
I agree. I 100% agree. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Sure. No, that's awesome. And one of the things that I really loved when I went to that, the mental health Christian night is obviously, besides your passion for this and your passion for music, you clearly also have a gift to be able to, for administration, to put things like this together.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had like Nettie, you had Grace Graber, you had a bunch of different styles of music, and it all worked amazing that night. And so I wanted to ask, how do you choose or how do you reach out to the right people to be able to perform at these?
Yeah. Um, that's been a journey in and of itself because I'll tell you, I was not a great admin person to
You kind of
begin
had to
with.
learn.
Yeah, like I've been more. I always tell people I'm a type B plus personality. I am all about the relationships and like the dreaming, and like I can dream up anything and like have a whole vision for it. But then as soon as I had to sit down and like come up with all of the details, like that was something that I used to get bored by when I was
Hmm.
younger. But I think what I've learned about myself in this doing this is that it has to be something I'm really passionate about. And through my mental health songwriter nights, God's really been grooming me as this like admin person who pays attention to the details. So when I first started doing the events back in 2022. I had just already had a lot of connections with different artists that I had played shows out here in
Hmm.
Nashville. And so ones I would reach out and ask like, hey, this is what we're looking for. Artists who are passionate about mental health. Do you have any songs that you can relate to the topic? You don't have to write like a whole new song for it. It's just something that you can connect, because usually you can. There's a lot of songs people write that can be connected to mental health in some way.
Sure.
I just don't want to force anybody to talk about that if they don't
Yeah.
want to.
Make them
So like,
uncomfortable or
yeah, because it does take a lot of courage and vulnerability to share a lot of the stuff that gets shared on these stages that we put music on. So um, that was like a big thing, but I wasn't like trying to like cater a specific vibe per se. And then as my events started to grow and I just started learning, like just paying attention, like, oh, these artists would go really well with this artist. And I feel like it'd be cool to have like, because it used to just be songwriters rounds, and sometimes we still do that. But I was like, it'd be cool to start incorporating more like acoustic band sets. And I just started like dreaming up more as I was in it, and also learning like, okay, we need to have some standards too. So there are some things like I have learned throughout my entire time putting these on, like we want people to remember that this is a safe, inclusive atmosphere. So when you're on stage, you have a huge responsibility to remember that. And so there's been different points where people have said some things or done some things that made people in the audience uncomfortable, and that wasn't about getting vulnerable. It was more so getting really vulgar and getting really like
yeah.
maybe getting on stage when they've had a couple too many drinks, and this is a mental
Mhm.
health event. So those were things that I started to pay attention to a little more and just talk about up front, like, hey, we do have some standards here as far as like who we're going to accept in. And then, also remembering that we work as a team to be able to put these events together. So we look for artists who are passionate about mental health, who they walk the walk when it comes to mental health, and they're going to get
Yeah.
up on stage and like they have the integrity about them, and you can like trust that they actually care about what we're doing, and they want to be there, and it's not just like another show for them to play, um, and they take their music seriously. And then they're also going to put in effort to like promote the show, and try and invite their friends and family and fans out to come to the event, because this is something that we don't just benefit the mental health organizations, we're also benefiting the artists. And I always tell artists like, if each of you gets 5 to 10 people to the show, like that's pretty great. And they always have an opportunity to make some money from these events
Yeah.
too. A lot of
And
times
that's
they end up,
exposure.
yeah, and it's exposure. And a lot of times they end up donating most, if not all, of their portion back, which is super kind, like really, really kind. And they don't have to, but that just shows a lot of the hearts behind most of the artists that come out and play these events. But my heart behind it is like, we want to be recognized as a business that does things with integrity and is very professional and has that heart for community. And there's artists out there that are really professional but maybe don't have the other two aspects, and then they have the integrity but maybe don't have the other two. So there's like these pillars that I've kind of established where I'm like, now I know what I'm looking for through all of these experiences. And then it goes a little bit deeper as I've grown into being detail oriented when I'm doing my themed events, because there's specific things that I'll be looking for, oh, we're going to be putting on like an alternative rock show, so there's going to be specific genres that we're looking for when it comes to that. Or we're going to be putting on another Christian night, and then there's other things that the other conversations I'm having with people who would be playing those events. So they've started to kind of break out into more specific subgenres, um, just as we're growing and trying out new things and playing around with the possibilities of these events.
Sure. And I could say, I mean, just like what you mentioned, you can see the growth in yourself because you probably before wouldn't have been able to have those conversations and set those boundaries. So
Yes.
that probably would have terrified you before, I would think.
I mean, it still does because I'm like, I really, and I try to do it as best as I can with like grace and not with judgment because like,
Sure.
we've all been there. I still make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's just one of those things where it's like I have to have those conversations because I recognize that the I think that consequences tend to fall on the person putting on the event, and so it's my responsibility to be navigating those things. And when something comes up that's kind of not great, I have to address it. And that was something I think I used to avoid a lot when I was younger, and or I got like backlash anytime I would try to confront someone, and I would just kind of back down and just keep putting up with things until it got really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not my mental health needs are like my baby, and I'm like, I want to protect them. Like God has
Sure.
definitely put that spirit of like protection in me, and He strengthened it. And so, you know, not in a way that's like, you know, nothing can go wrong because that's impossible, but like more so just like as things come up, like address them. And He tells me all the time, like, you are capable, you can do things, and remember, like, I am with you. And anytime that I start to like struggle with how to navigate something, it's just you go to the Bible, and there's so many examples of how you can. And I just try to remember that, you know, God will help me. All
Yeah.
things through Christ.
No, and you mentioned, things could go wrong. And the night that I went, I believe you were scheduled to perform, but you were under
Yes.
the weather. So you kind of had to scramble at the end, didn't you?
Yeah. So one of the artists, Hope, her accompanist was also an artist, and she reached out to me after I had like,
That was the girl playing the
um,
keyboard?
yeah,
Okay.
um, who after I had like announced on like our platform, like I'm not going to be able to sing. If there's someone who's interested in performing, please reach out to me soon. Because if not, like if we didn't have anyone, we would have just probably like taken a little bit of a longer break because we do those scheduled breaks in between for people to get up and look at like artists' merch tables, look at the we do like either a raffle or a silent auction. So go check that out. Go to the bathroom, get some snacks, whatever they want to do. Talk. Um, but she was like, "Oh well, my keyboardist, she actually has a really beautiful voice, and she's a great singer." And I connected with her and like listened to her sing on like a video that she had, and I was like, "Wow, she's got a really nice voice," and I liked her songs. And she ended up, and so she said yes, which was great, and it was very last minute. And she did a really great job. Like I teared up to some of her songs, and that was, I think, like her first time performing
Really?
live. I believe that's what she said, if I'm remembering correctly, and how it was like something to that effect, where I was like, "Whoa, that's so special!" Like, and you wouldn't have known because she was so good. Like,
Yeah.
you would never have known that it was her, like singing, because she obviously like accompanies people on the keyboard, but singing wise, like you just wouldn't have known. She was so talented, and her songs were so beautiful and well written, and you could tell she definitely loves God. So that ended up working out. I always tell people it's like, you're putting out these little like fires that come up, and you know,
Got to
I
roll
I,
with
I always
it.
compared myself to like a pink Power Ranger when I was
There you go.
when I'm in these like when I'm wearing my Mental Health Songwriter Nights hat. I'm the pink Power Ranger because
There you go.
that was my Power Ranger growing up. And
Nice.
my mom could tell you that my fifth birthday party, that was Pink Power Ranger was at my birthday party, and I was very excited, and it was the real Pink Power Ranger.
That's awesome.
um, so I try to remember.
I
I
get
just
it. I was a G.I. Joe kid growing up, so
yeah,
I get
yeah.
it.
Exactly, exactly.
Nice.
So yeah, that's a tough one too, because if people are coming to see you and then like you can't perform, and for me it's like I knew I had to also talk at the event, and there was a lot of other things I was doing. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And I really wanted to. I tried, but I just wasn't able to. Um, so that was a tough call because I hate canceling shows, but the show must go on.
Nice, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
Now, what was her name? And I got to say, when she was singing, I kept thinking, if you know the country artist Avery Anna, she reminded me so much of her when she was singing.
Mia, I know her first name is Mia. I'm looking
Okay,
up right now because I want to definitely give you the correct name. Mia J.
Mia
Was
J. Okay,
it? Mhm.
yeah, that's what
Mia.
I was thinking when she was playing. I was like, man, this sounds like Avery Anna.
Yeah, she's beautiful. She has a very beautiful spirit as well, and her music was wonderful. Again, it's one of those things where it's like when things are happening that are outside of your control, which there were a few other aspects to that event that were outside of my control that we were having to navigate, and they all ended up working out. Um, really leaning into just like, it's okay, it's in God's hands. And, he's put other people in these positions who are skilled in other areas that you
Yep.
may not be for this reason. And so I was just really leaning into that and like just trusting everyone else that was involved who knew what they were doing. Because if there's something that comes up with the sound and I don't know anything about, I'm not a sound engineer. I just know what it usually sounds like when it works and what it sounds like when it doesn't.
Yep.
That's about as far as my knowledge goes with that. All of the other techie stuff, I'm just like, my husband's really good at that. He
You're
did
like,
it
hey,
all
can
the
you
tech stuff.
get this?
I know. I don't think he was there. I think he was on tour. He's also like in a band. Yeah, he was on tour. He had his own show in another state that night, and
Okay.
I remember being like, "This stuff is going on, and I wish you were here." He's like, "It's gonna work out, babe. It always does." And I'm like,
You're like,
you
can
know,
I FaceTime you and just show you?
yeah. And it's so funny when people come up to me and they're like, How do you stay so calm? And like, you always seem like you're collected." And I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
inside, it's like,
Yeah. It's all a facade.
yeah. And like,
Nice.
sometimes I have to well, it's not really a facade. It's more so like I step outside and I do my deep breathing exercises
Yeah.
and I reground and like align myself. And I'm just like, okay, we're feeling the feels. I'm giving myself 2 minutes to feel the feels. Okay, and now we're gonna go back inside and we're gonna like put that pink Power Ranger cap back on. We're gonna
Yep.
deal with it because we are
Yep.
adults.
That's kind of the way, like, whenever there's something I'm like overwhelmed, I'm like, I can't do this. It's just like you pray to the Lord and you're just kind of like, you know what? There's no option. I just got to do it. Like, there
Yeah,
is no option to failure. You just do what you got to do.
yeah.
And
I
you end up
was
making it through.
This is like a super side note, but it ties with this message. I was watching this video. My husband's like, "Why do you keep watching shark attack videos?" I'm like, "I don't know. They're really inspiring when I'm going through something tough." Because like, these survivors, they have these wild stories and then
Yep.
they end up having the craziest like strong mindsets after they go through something like this woman was like on his boat. I don't remember her name. It was just this random video. And she and her friends, like the boat was like flipped over because of a storm. And like the boat was sinking and her friends, they were close enough to shore where they could like swim out. It would take hours, but they could swim out to get to shore. And they knew what direction they had to go. And so they had made this decision that like, okay, we're gonna have to swim back. And like one of her friends unfortunately was attacked and didn't make it,
Mm.
attacked by a shark. And then the other two she lost sight of and she didn't know what happened. And she just kept swimming. She's like, I gotta keep swimming, I gotta keep swimming, I gotta keep swimming. And it took her 7 hours to get to shore. And at one point while she was in the water, a shark had brushed up under her. And she was just like, in that moment, I don't know what came over me, but I just like, I told myself and I felt myself just saying to the shark, I belong here too, buddy. And then she's like, I'm just going to keep going. And she's like, and I just remember staying calm and not freaking out. And I just kept swimming and kept, and she made it. And
Wow.
she, and she what, and the shark didn't bug her anymore. I mean, I'm not saying go out and try this, but like, but I'm just saying like that the strength in that moment of
Yeah,
just like I belong here. And I feel like that's what stood out to me from that story was like when she was like, I belong here. Because
sure.
I think that's what happens when we're experiencing challenge. We feel like we're not worthy.
Yeah,
We feel like we're overwhelmed. We don't know how to fix it. And then I think when you remember, like, okay, I belong here, it's going to be okay, just one foot in front of the other, and you
yep,
just keep going. That's it.
yeah.
And that was for her, like just one stride, and she was doing a back stride at one point behind the other, and she made it. And then they ended up, she got help, and they were able to rescue the other two guys that got lost. So she ended up
Okay.
saving their lives by making it to shore, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, anyway, crazy story, but like it reminded me of that because I was just like, yeah, like remembering you belong here, and leaning into that can really help you reframe the situation and deal with it in a more grounded, clear, present way.
Yeah. And that really is faith, where it's like, look, God prepared me to be in this moment.
Hmm.
Whatever is coming, He prepared me for it, and He's going to be there for me through it. The
Yeah,
other part, the part that we have to do is what He tells us to do, just do it.
yeah,
In that moment when the Holy Spirit says do something, as scary as it may be, just do it.
yeah, yeah,
And my thing is, I try not to even think about it because that's when fear creeps in even more. I'm like, okay, do it before my own insecurity and fear can take over and stop me. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna do it.
yeah.
It's like because there's no other option. I just gotta do it.
See, that's good. That's good. That's true.
And
That's
then after
true.
the fact, you're like, what the heck did I just do?
It's almost like an adrenaline rush, and you're just
Yep.
like, I just did that. It's like an out of body experience. I still have that with my events. Like after each one, there's a moment I experience where I'm like, that was me.
Yeah. You're like, are you serious?
Are you sure?
Exactly. No, it's an awesome feeling though, because it's like, I mean, in a different way, but I experienced that, with being able to interview stars, and it just, I'm like,
Mm.
I'm just a guy from Erie, Pennsylvania, and I get to do this. Like,
Aw.
why? But that's like, okay, Lord, I'm not going to question. I'm just going to accept it, and it's awesome,
Yeah,
and that's why I try to just be like, whatever it is that you're passionate about, just go for it. God
yeah,
put that passion on you for a reason. Do it. It's like you
yeah,
find what makes you really happy.
yeah. I can definitely tell that you're a very energizing spirit as well, and I think
Thank
that
you.
we need more of that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
So I
And I
I
feed off
really
of energy like you have. I feed off of that. So,
oh, good, 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 good. That makes me happy to hear. Um,
absolutely.
but
Now, I
yeah.
want to ask you, you had mentioned a couple times about a festival coming up.
Mhm.
So, tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I partnered with another booking agent in town. Her name is Rebecca Cole, and she puts on RAC Books.
Okay.
And we are putting on Stay Fest. It's Stay semicolon Fest.
Okay.
And it's the first mental health festival in Nashville based on my research. I have not
Nice.
seen anything else. So if somebody feels I am wrong about that, please let me know. But based on my research, this is the first mental health festival in Nashville. So we're really excited about it. It's a multi-genre festival. And it was something that like it was a part of my long-term, vision with these events. Like I have a couple goals that I've had for a while. A festival, I want to turn them into these like mini tours and start doing mini mental health tours around the country and maybe even out of the country. But those are things that I'm like, I really don't feel like I can do that by myself.
Hmm.
And so Rebecca last year, she knew she's a friend and colleague of my husband's, and she had reached out to Bobby, my husband, asking about the Mental Health Songwriter Nights. And he was like, oh, you've got to connect with Zhaklina. And so we got dinner one night. She was telling me how she wanted to put on a mental health festival and heard I was the gal to connect with. And I was like, very cool. So we ended up deciding to partner on this together. There's going to be alternative music, pop music, rock music, and some metal
Okay.
as well. It's two stages.
Nice.
Yeah, it's two stages at the Cobra in East Nashville. So there's the big stage, main stage, where there's going to be like the big full band performances, and then the smaller stage is going to be the acoustic performances. And
Okay.
they're going to be going on at different times too. Both Rebecca and I were really passionate about people being able to like be present for each performance. We didn't want like two performers going on at the same time and
Sure.
have
And then you have to sacrifice one for the other.
exactly. And we're like allotting time in between for people to be able, because we're also going to have a bunch of different mental health resources there as vendors. So there's different nonprofits, several that I've worked with in the past that we've benefited, several that Rebecca really wanted to have there. Then we also got some really cool local businesses to sponsor us. So they're also going to be there as vendors.
Nice.
Our Deli in East Nashville is going to be selling food, and they have really yummy food. So we're excited about that. Um, we're going to be benefiting Mental Health Initiative through a portion of our ticket sales, as well as a really exciting raffle that we're putting together that local businesses like Hot Yoga of East Nashville. We've got Urban Sweat. We've got a toy store that's like just pretty awesome in Franklin that donated a bunch of really cool, like very nostalgic games and toys and things like that.
Okay.
Um, we're just food, like there's like all kinds of different prizes that people are going to be able to um, get a raffle for and see if they win. And 100% of those proceeds are going to be benefiting Mental Health Initiative. It's going to be other opportunities to be able to benefit Mental Health Initiative as well. And then the artists too are going to be benefiting from this event. So it's just this really big, awesome event, kind of combining music, art, mental health, and it's going to be all day Saturday, September 13th. Doors
Okay.
are going to be opening at 3 o'clock. Show is going to be starting, I think, around like 4 something. Follow us, Mental Health Songwriter Nights,
Nice.
or find our Facebook page for the event, Stay Semicolon Fest, to find out more about those details as we continue to announce them. But the doors open at 3 o'clock, and you should
Okay.
totally be there at 3.
Nice. So is that where people can find when you guys are announcing like who's going to be performing and
Yep,
from the Facebook page?
we've already been announcing all of that.
Okay.
So you can either follow us on Instagram at Mental Health Songwriter Nights, or on Facebook. You can follow Mental Health Songwriter Nights. You can also follow our Facebook festival event page, Stay Fest. Um, that those are all places that you can find out more about the festival.
Nice. And I'll be
And
sure to put all the links so it's easy for you guys to find this and be able to definitely check it out. I plan on being there. It'll be a
uh,
lot of fun. So
Awesome. I can't wait to see you there.
heck yeah.
It's gonna be a good event. We've got pre-sale tickets going on. We also have a social media giveaway going on right now too. So if anybody wants to like tag people on our event promotional posts, share the event, and just kind of follow some of the social media guidelines, they can submit themselves into an opportunity to get like a free ticket, a free raffle tickets as well, and just different cool giveaway things like that. So you can also partake in that too.
Fantastic. And I did want to ask you about some of your music because that's kind of where you started getting involved in this was first your passion in music and then bringing in your passion. So I checked out a lot of you, and it's funny that you mentioned your husband Bobby. I was going to ask you if that was your husband because I saw him in a couple of the videos, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
wonder if that's her husband. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you had mentioned he's in another band. Has he been in music pretty much his whole life? Is that how you guys met was through music or?
Yeah, we have a really cute story. Um,
Nice.
so he's actually been a drummer. He was a drummer first, and he like has been playing drums in worship churches for like a really long time, or worship bands at churches for a while. And we met at a startup church called Bridges in Nashville. And we didn't really like connect for the first 6 months. Like I was going through my own stuff and he was going through his own stuff, and like I knew who he was. He tells me he had no idea who he was even though we would like lead worship together. He like didn't know who I was for like 6 months.
You're like, thanks.
So we never really connected. Like I knew who he was because he's this like 6'4" tall guy and was the only one that was playing drums. So it's really hard to miss. But like but we never like chatted or anything like that. And then my last rehearsal with them, because I had decided to go to a different church after helping them for 6 months, was when like Bobby and I like connected, and he says that's when the veil was taken off and I noticed you, and like and that was like interesting. um and so like that last time like was when he remembers us like leading worship together, even though we had led worship together several times before that. But um after that we connected, and I had a manager at that time, and Bobby's also a graphic designer. So she had reached out to him to help me design my logo for my music.
Okay.
Um, and so like we also ended up getting connected professionally on that level too. And he did a really good job with my logo. And then we started hanging out as friends. We like realized we had a lot in common. And I remember for a while I was like, I'm in my season of singleness. Like I'm not trying to date right now. And
Best laid plans, right?
and he would be like, uh-huh, yeah, 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 yeah.
He's
And
like,
like
that's nice.
that's yeah, sure. I'll stick around long enough for you to change your mind. Like it was like I remember having several conversations with him whenever I would feel like, okay, this is like I feel like we're going past that point and I don't want to go past that point. And I would just be like, no, because it's just I'm like, not right now. There's a lot going on in my life. There's a lot going on in your life, not right now. And so we went through that, and what I learned through that was that like he actually like would respect my boundaries. Like if I wanted space from hanging out with him or whatever it was, like he would respect them, which I really appreciated. And like that honestly is really hard to find.
Sure.
Um,
That shows his integrity.
mhm. Like on top of us having so much to talk about and still have so much to talk about to the point where sometimes I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna go have some alone time and or read my books or go hang out. I think that's like the sign of a really healthy like
Yeah.
relationship too. When you can like you have a lot to talk about with like your partner, and you also like feel like you want to go and also spend time with your friends and you and your
Yep.
family or yourself, and like you feel safe enough and confident enough to be able to do those things even when your partner is not with you.
Yeah.
It's more healthy, like interdependent. And so anyway, we were friends for a while, and then we started dating. Because eventually like all of my barriers melted away when the timing was right for me, and for Bobby. And then 10 months later he proposed, even though I was like, wait at least a year. And at 10 months he proposes to me. I was like, well, I'm still gonna say yes and if you ask me in 2 months, so I might as well say yes now. And then almost a year later, we got married, and we've been married for 4.5 years now,
Congratulations.
um, and together for going on 6 years, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, we've gone through all those stages in terms of relationships, and I feel like he's a really cool guy, and we do a lot of music stuff together. The first song we actually worked on together, we wrote together. It's called "Gossip Queen," my song,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
um, and we were just friends when we were writing that. Like I was venting about the situation I was going through with some girls that were like gossiping about me, and
Yep.
I was like, I need to just get this out. It was like on my birthday too, and I was like, I just need to get this out. And
Nice.
he helped me like turn it into a really cool song. And I was like, well, I don't want this to just be a vent. I want this to be like really meaningful and like recognizing that like, oh, we all have different things that we go through. So I turned it into a more like introspective message. But it was a cool thing that we got to write together. And ever since, like we've written other things together. He's been in several of my music videos, plays drums on quite a bit of my songs. I've done some BGVs with him, and I've helped him out with like singing, learning how to sing and find harmonies. And
Nice.
he's now teaching me how to do some screamo in the right way, which is really exciting. That was something that I always thought was really cool. But he's also grown a lot because, like, when I met him, he was primarily a drummer, but then he was like, you know, I have this band and I want to be the lead singer, and I've also been teaching myself how to play guitar. I'm like, who are you that you can do all these things? I've been singing my whole life, and like I just now got to the point where I can play the keys enough to write a song to it, and I'm like be able to play like some basic chords when I'm playing live. And he's like, I'm doing this now, this now, this now, and I'm like, all right,
Like, all
cool.
right, show off.
Um, he's very talented, and then he's also like incredibly gifted and like his sketching and his graphic design. I mean, he is an artist
Awesome.
through and through. Like that boy is an artist. He was destined for it.
Awesome.
um, so anyway, like it's really cool being married to somebody who's always inspiring me.
Sure.
To really because he spends, I always thought I spent a lot of time on my craft, but nothing compared to what he does. Like he really spends so much time on it, and it shows. But yeah, it's cool. We help each other a lot, and we have our own things going on
Sure.
because we're both highly independent people, and so we need to have our own projects going on. Otherwise, we can kind of like get a little catty over some things. And so we learned that, and we respect each other's space when we need it, and then we help each other when we need it, and we're always growing in that. But yeah,
Fantastic. Now, what's the name of his band?
Hollow Wake.
Hollow Wake. So we'll have to
They're,
check that out.
yeah, they're like a post-hardcore rock heavy metal band. And
Very
I don't know,
cool.
he might come back and be like, "That's not how I explain it," and I'm like, "That's how it sounds to me."
I get, and that's like we had mentioned before. Like one of the things that I liked listening to your songs was it's hard to pin down one genre, even, or let alone one sound. And I think you called it alternative pop was the way you described it. Um,
Alternative rock pop. So yeah,
Alternative rock pop. I like that.
yeah.
You
I
had
think.
mentioned Gossip Queen,
Mhm.
and when I was watching that, that definitely had a little bit of like an Avril Lavigne feel to it,
Yeah,
Avril
yeah.
Lavigne feel to it. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, this is cool.
I loved Avril Lavigne growing up, and I still think she's really cool. Um, she was definitely one of my inspirations. Evanescence, Amy Lee from Evanescence is
Yep.
like I would say the number one inspiration as far as like um, songwriting, vocals, um, genre, like all of that. Um, she I would definitely say she's influenced a lot of my music too. Um, Avril Lavigne.
I could see that in your music.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. Um, my very first inspiration was Celine Dion
Okay.
when I was like 5 years old, and I'm like belting out to "My Heart Will Go On" after watching the Titanic for the 50th time that week. Like obsessed with that
Nice.
movie. Even though I'm like now I reflect back and I'm like I don't know that like when we have kids I'm gonna let my 5-year-old watch Titanic, but you know, it is. I watched it when I was that young, and I paid more attention. I loved the song,
Sure.
and then every time I would watch it, I would cry because I would be like, "No, I don't want Jack to die. Like, come on, just scoot over a little bit,
That was
Rose.
my whole thing when I watched it. I'm like, that
It's
door
big
was
enough."
like huge. And
Like,
she's leaving him to freeze, and I'm like, come on.
I know, and I seriously used to watch it thinking like, "Okay, it's gonna be different this time," and then like somehow it's gonna change, and it never did.
The
And
Titanic doesn't sink.
yep. And I'm just like, no. But anyway, that's like my mom would be like, it doesn't matter how many times you watch it, Zhaklina, it's always gonna end this way. And I would just be like, you just gotta have hope, mom.
That's awesome.
Uh,
That's the innocence of a child right there.
yeah. But I would say Celine Dion is what I feel like she's the reason I'm a belter. Like I have
Okay.
such a powerful voice just because oh my gosh, like my mom, my family would just be like, "All right, Zhaklina, turn it off." um, and then Christina Aguilera, but I was super influenced by pop, rock, alternative, um, all kinds of artists, honestly. And I think that that's part of why my music is so like versatile.
Hmm.
And you can hear so many different kinds of influences. And for a while, I used to like wonder, like, oh, is there something wrong with that? And this kind of goes back to like, is there anything wrong with being a Christian? Is there anything
Right.
wrong with advocating for mental health through my music. No, no, no. This is just who I am. And as you lean into who you are, then you end up finding all these other people who are just like, similar.
Yep.
And you're just like, wow, that's so cool. And I think that that is a big wave of the way music is right now. Like when you listen to artists, you can hear all kinds of different inspirations in
Absolutely.
their music, and I think that the whole like message of not being put in a box is something that a lot of artists are embodying now.
Yeah.
No, like that's part of it. It's like you're an artist. Like, why keep
Yeah.
yourself in a box and not
Yeah.
try and grow and see what else you can do and like what else like energizes you and like gets your creative juices flowing and
Yeah.
like, and I also feature on a lot of hip hop artists' tracks. Like I'll do
I
like,
saw that with Pieces. I was
yeah,
thinking that. And that's when you mentioned Amy Lee. I was like, okay, that's where I kind of heard that was your
yeah.
vocals on Pieces was kind of that Amy Lee Evanescence feel to it.
I'm feeling like I just need you here. I'm wondering if you're really near. I'm struggling with faith through all of this fear. And God, these are my pieces. Won't you make them clear?
Yep, yeah, I can definitely see that. Which Whiteout, he's a super talented rapper. Um, we had done a couple things together, but yeah, so um, you know, that's something too that I'm like, why not? Like, why not work with hip hop artists? I have another one that I'm working with tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing like a hook on one of her songs, and
Nice.
we're really excited about that. And anyway, so it's like you've got all these possibilities, and that's something else I just want everybody to know. It's like don't limit yourself, like, connect with other artists and creatives and just see what happens. Play
Sure.
around. I feel like that's part of like we get so focused on like, being successful, making money, and that's important. But also, like, I feel like God wants us to really enjoy what we're doing and like
Yeah.
have fun with it, and like and all we really have is today. Like today is what we have. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So being present with all your different opportunities and making the most of them and having some fun and enjoying your life, like you can enjoy what you do and like make money off of it
Sure.
and also it be a little bit different from what other people might expect from you. Like who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey,
So,
it's what the doors that God open, you go through, and it's like you kind of find your purpose that He has, and that's when you really find fulfillment.
yeah, and it's more, I feel like it's so much deeper than like, trying to have a very put together image. And I think that that's what a lot of branding does is because it's
Yes.
like you got to get your branding down. People need to be able to recognize you, blah 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 blah. But then I like reflect back on like I think a lot of like Adele, for instance, I'm like she just puts her face on everything.
Yeah.
Like, and she's not like, "Oh, it has to always be this color and it has to always be this vibe." It's like that's something I really respect about Adele is she's so down to earth and like she just allows everything to just kind of flow. And there's a lot of artists like that where it's like I don't need it to always look like this and be this way for like I think people are going to recognize me because A, they know my face, and B, they know my voice.
Right.
And that's what I always tell people is like people will know it's my music even if it's like, oh, this is a little more rock than the other one because they know my voice
Yep.
and they know my face. And that's something that I kind of took from as far as like Adele goes and artists like her. And even like when you think of Ariana Grande, just think about all the different kinds of branding she's gone through and
Hmm.
all of that. So anyway, I encourage other artists and people to really lean into like their identity on a deeper level than like what you're trying to like put out there and make people see about you. It's just remember what excites you and what you feel like energized by. And I think that that tells people more about who you are than I don't know what color your merch is.
Exactly.
So
No, I agree 100%. Especially a couple things. One, it allows for further professional growth and just personal growth. And
mhm.
two, it exposes you to more people. You know,
Yeah.
if you just had the same type of music, you're going to have people that absolutely love it, and then a wide range of people that will never hear it.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to experiment with different types of music, that's more people that can really like what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of EDM artists approach things that way too, just because think about all the different kinds of artists that they'll feature on their songs.
Yeah.
Like you got to be able to like experiment and play and see what happens, and they end up, they'll put a rock singer on a song, and then they'll put a country singer on a song, and then they'll put a pop singer, and like, I just feel like all music can be that creative.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of times people are like, "What kind of music do you like?" I'm like, "Good."
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I might end up borrowing that if
Go
that's okay.
ahead. You can have
I
it.
really like that because that's good. Good.
Because I grew up on all country, and then my cousin got me, of all things, it was Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. And that just
Oh,
blew my mind. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a whole nother side. And that got me into hard rock and metal. And then there was the Christian side. It was like, this is just incredible. There was so much out there that I didn't know.
you're gonna really like this festival in September.
Sweet. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
So, Zhaklina, this has been absolutely amazing. There's one other thing that I wanted to ask you, and it has to do with
Mhm.
the rose. And you have
Mm,
it in a number of your videos, and even like on your Instagram, I saw it. So I wanted
mhm.
to ask you the significance to you of the rose.
Okay. Going back to branding. So I wanted to have a couple things that kind of stood out in my branding and my music that wasn't like super over the top, and it was just something really simple that I can like, you know, just put on a cover art or like have it in my video somewhere, and just like it just reflects back the message of what I'm trying to communicate through my music, and all of my visual art that goes with my music. So the rose to me represents like being timeless, and being like classic in terms of like the content and the art that you're putting out. And then the thorns on the rose represent like challenges and boundaries and like
Okay.
navigating really difficult things. And sometimes you do have to have like hard conversations, and you have to go through grow like really difficult things to grow sometimes. And then it also represents beauty. And I feel like those are all things that God tells me I am. And I just want to like shine that message out for anyone else that feels and receives that message for themselves too, that like you are beautiful, you are timeless, like your life here is a vapor. I think that's what the scripture says. And
Yep.
it's like a moment in time that right now it feels like really long. Sometimes it feels like it's going by really fast, but we're here for a while, but it in the grand scheme of things, it's just a vapor. And our everything that we do and put out, and the energy that we're putting out into the world, it's timeless. And God has these grander plans for us. And then when we go through difficult things like having boundaries and caring about your health and your wellness, your mental health specifically is like what I like to talk about. I think that's also something that God has put on my heart, as I've shared earlier, and I want other people to know is important for them and that they are beautiful. I think that, especially as a woman, I know men struggle with this too, so I don't want to like minimize like men's struggle because I know they have it. But just from my own, from being a woman, because that's the only perspective I feel I can talk about, is just that like there's this constant comparison, and there's now all these different things you can do to your body and your face and your skin, and to make yourself prettier, or whatever that even really means. And
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel like, I feel like remembering that I am beautiful the way God created me,
Yeah.
and learning how to take care of the beauty that he's given me and nurture it, take good care of my skin in a really healthy organic way, take good care of my teeth, take good care of what I'm putting on my body and my hair and all of that. I think that that's the essence of beauty, is like, I feel like people were designed the way made the way they were made for a
Yep.
reason, and God said that it was enough, and God said that it was beautiful. And then your job is to just take care of that beauty,
Yeah.
just like you would,
Maintain it.
Yeah, just like you would, any plant. And for me, I think of the rose. Like you nurture the rose, you take care
Nice.
of it, and it continues to bloom and to just like thrive. Um, so yeah, I felt like a rose was a really good example of the messages I wanted people to receive from my music, which is messages I just get from God. So I'm just like translating it, and it all kind of ties down to this really simple message. And it goes, live loved. So living from a place of knowing that you're like deeply and unconditionally loved allows you to, I feel, live your like the life that you want to live in alignment, with who you really feel like you are. It's like your most authentic version of yourself.
I love that. I love that. It's just the way you describe it, and I'm thinking, rose is a great representation of us, like even with our faults, like the thorns.
Yep.
The rose is always, like you said, it's timeless. It's always thought of as the beautiful flower, the most beautiful flower. And it's like you can't make a rose prettier than it already is.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
way God made it is the perfect form.
Yep. Yep.
And you think of, and I feel bad for people that have like all the plastic surgery because it's like what drives them to want to change themselves. And nine times out of ten, you're like, why did you do that? Like you were
Yep.
much more handsome or prettier before you did that. Why? What drove you to that? And it's not really much judgment, but it's like what made you think that you weren't good enough?
Mm. Yep. Yeah. Even that, like, just the way you said that, it makes me, I felt that very deeply. Like, what made you think that you weren't good enough?
Yeah,
I feel like that's something that, um, most people struggle with on some level,
sure.
especially like, having so much accessibility to social media and seeing what else is out there, where before it's like the people that are around you, now you can see like what people are doing in China,
Yeah.
um, or in California, even though we live
Yep.
in Tennessee. And it's like, you can see all kinds of things at any point, at any time. And I don't know that I can see how that can be good and I can see how that can be really harmful, especially
Absolutely.
when you think about kids and teenagers, you're
Yep.
seeing kids younger and younger now wearing makeup and
Yep.
like they have to, get plastic surgery and they're 8 years old. And it's like you haven't even actually gone through your teenage years yet. You have no
Exactly.
idea what your body's going to look like in 5 years. Like there's just all kinds of stuff. So, I think that just I do my best to stay grounded in the reality, what I believe to be reality, of like, I was made the way I was made for a reason. And I don't need to make my lips look bigger or anything look different. I feel like I'm beautiful the way that I am. And when I struggle with that, I always lean into Jesus and he always reminds me of the rose and we're all different roses in his garden or different kinds of flowers and different plants, whatever plant, you vibe with.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had a conversation with a friend she's also an artist and she does a lot of like rose metaphors and has rose symbolism in her branding for her music. And like that's her favorite flower. And I was like, see, I didn't pick it because it's my favorite flower. And people are always like, really? It's not your favorite flower? I'm like, no. I mean, I love a rose. Like, and I always tell my husband, feel free to bring me roses. Like, I love roses. But it's not my favorite flower. I picked it because of what I feel like God showed me
Sure.
through it, the
What it
symbol.
represents.
Yeah. And everyone I feel like connects with the rose, and that was a whole other, aspect to it too. So it's not my favorite flower, but I think it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful flower, and I love what it represents.
That's outstanding. Well, Jacqueline, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a real blessing getting to know you. And of course, I'll put all the links. Now, do you have separate links for your music as opposed to, we talked about the mental health,
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
songwriters? What are links that people can follow you individually?
Thank you. Well, you can follow me on Instagram at I am Zhaklina, IamZhaklina. And then you can follow me on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, at just Zhaklina, Zhaklina. And then I also am on YouTube at I am Zhaklina, IAMZHAKLINA. And then wherever else you listen to music, if you just type in Zhaklina, I'm sure you'll stuff will pop up because it's all my music's been distributed through all the platforms. I just primarily listen on like Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes.
Sure.
So yeah, but anywhere you listen, just type in my name and you'll find my music.
Awesome. So be sure to check her out. You guys are going to love it. I'm telling you, there's something for everybody in the music, without a doubt. So you're going to find something you love, with no doubt about it.
Thank you. I
Was
really appreciate that.
absolutely. And Jacqueline, again, this has been incredible. Before we leave, is there anything else you'd like to say to fans?
Hmm. I kind of want to reiterate the message that you shared earlier, and it's just like if you're really passionate about something and you feel really led to pursue something and called to do it, however you want to frame it, um, just do it. I loved that, and I want to reiterate that and reemphasize that message.
Awesome. I couldn't have said it any better. Again, thank you so much. It's been a ton of fun. And as
Likewise,
always, I want to thank you guys for spending this time with us. We love you all. God bless and rock on.
awesome.